Good morning, Wrestling Inc. Get up, get going. Happy Thursday. I hope you are thirsty as Paul is here as he drinks his delicious morning beverage. It's time for the Wrestling Inc. Daily. I'm your Wrestling Inc. managing editor, Nick Hausman. Joined here as I am every Thursday to get thirsty for that pro wrestling punditry. It's Paul Pratt, a.k.a. Polio Del Mar. Paul, welcome back to the Wrestling Inc. Daily.
Hey, Nick. Thanks for having me, of course. It's always good to be back with you.
We're going to have a blast here today, Paul.
Always.
You know, we got some big news to get to here. I woke up early for bad reason. Willow had an eye infection breakout last night, and she had goop coming out of her eye. So we made the vet appointment. I was able to drop her off. I had to walk into Boys Town to take Willow to the vet where the vet is. Whole place is shut down for Pride, by the way. Pride is this weekend in Chicago. We're finding
very nice.
At the end of the route right outside my house. It's wonderful. So I drop off Willow. She's there. She's being taken care of. She'll be totally fine. And I'm walking home, and I walk past this establishment called Waken Bakery. All right. And it is a coffee shop that infuses their drinks with Delta 8, which is like, if it's like the pure form of marijuana where it's both the CBD and a little bit of the THC. So anyway, on my way home, I decided to pop in. I got myself a little Waken Bakery coffee. So I am both way alert right now and also hyper relaxed. What I'm getting at is this might be the best daily we've ever done, Paul. I'm very excited today.
You seem obviously very excited. I'm the exact opposite. You woke up, you've been up. I literally woke up like 2 minutes ago.
We're going to have so much fun today. I'm excited. I'm in a great mood. So it makes it even better that Paul's here. Makes it even better that we got the comment section open today. So if you want to chat along with us here in the show, we got Hardcore Paradise. Hello, boys and girls. Because they put Z's instead of S's because Z's are funny S's, which is great. Thank you. Samantha, good afternoon. Rick Plott, good why. Don't know what that means. I guess it means good morning. Charles Dowd, hey, Wrestle Pals. Nicholas, my plant friend, good morning. And, of course, Elizabeth Fox, good afternoon. Nick and Paul, first time catching it live. So I am so excited to watch and hear some wrestling news. Elizabeth, I love it. This is such a nice way to start the show off today, Paul.
Elizabeth, we are glad that you're here. We love it when somebody joins us for the first time. Hopefully we live up to your expectations and you join us on a regular basis going forward.
And I know that we are doing a lot more exposure for the show, I think right now in audio form than video form. You know, we can always hybrid that. So if you're listening to us in audio form right now, I don't think I say this enough. You could catch us live on the Wrestling Inc. YouTube channel and all our socials Monday through Friday, noon Eastern. So if you enjoy the audio show, come join us here live to jump in the conversation. Like Mike Martin here saying, Nick is lit up. Oh, hell yes. I am lit up.
Yes, he sure is.
I am a straight bleezy right now. I am on fire. All right. So
this is the most alert and awake and hyperactive I've ever seen you.
It's because I usually start the show with a cup of coffee, and I drank one about an hour before now. So I'm good. Rob Humphrey. Paul should be excited because he's wearing what is definitely hat of the week. It is a dope hat. And again, if you're in audio form, you don't see the hat. The hat's very good. All right, last one here.
Actually, it's a San Diego hat, which is blasphemous because I live in San Francisco.
Well, Antonio Garcia here. Lucky you, Nick. I wish I could buy some of that coffee. Hey, Waken Bakery right here just outside Boys Town in Chicago, Illinois. Come get it. All right. Undertaker fans? I don't know what he's talking about here. He's asking me to ignore his comments, so I guess I will, but I acknowledge that. Whatever. All right. There's so many people jumping in right now because they know that I'm engaging the chat room. I will engage you guys further in a second, but I feel like I should let you know what's going on this show today. Of course, there'll be me and Paul talking the news block in just a moment. If you're listening to us in audio form after the news block, you're going to be able to hear my latest conversation. This one with EC3. EC3 taking on Adam Scherr, a.k.a. Braun Strowman, this Saturday night. Free the Narrative 2, The Monster in Us All. You're going to get to hear me talk to EC3 at length about this bout, his relationship with Adam, a.k.a. Braun, what it was like for them to both be backstage, their creative frustrations, and, you know, we get off a little bit into conspiracy as well, which I'm sure created a soundbite that will in no way be overused by many other pro wrestling outlets. We'll get to it afterwards. I'll talk about it in the mailbag. But then after, of course, the interview with Ethan, and if you want to not listen to an audio form, video form, that's up on the Wrestling YouTube channel, about 52 minutes. The mailbag today, we're going to look at the premiere last night of Roads to the Top. So stick around to the end of the show. You know how much I love my reality shows, and you know how much Paul loves Cody and Brandy. So
I didn't watch that show. I didn't watch it. I was like, not a chance.
Wow. Okay. Well, I watched it. I watched it this morning when I got back from dropping old Willow off there. So we'll all talk about it. I certainly have thoughts. But let's get to it here, Paul. News you can use. News that will leave a bruise. Yes, everybody. We're going to start off here with a report from our good friend at Cassidy Haynes over at bodyslam.net. The AEW executive vice presidents have lost some of the creative control they once had when launching the company. The AEW EVPs, of course, are Cody Rhodes, the Young Bucks, and Kenny Omega. The group essentially had creative taken away by AEW president, CEO, general manager, and head of creative, Tony Khan. It was noted that creative was, quote, essentially completely taken away, end quote, from the EVPs as everything now comes through Khan. AEW talents are reportedly allowed and encouraged to pitch ideas or give suggestions, but creative is absolutely Khan's prerogative now. It was said that at one point, Cody was the only EVP to regularly attend office meetings and was an office regular. And by the way, the word office is in quotation marks. Dozens of quotes. But that role, as well as his input with creative, has greatly diminished. The report further noted that Matt Jackson's role as EVP was to help his wife Dana with merchandise, while Nick Jackson is focused on handling being the elite. Omega, very hands-on with the AEW games division and the gaming side of things, while still helping to put together matches for the women's division. All four were described as EVPs in name only in 2021. A source added that they no longer have the final say in the creative process or in hiring talent, as Khan, quote, pulled back on the reins and took that power away from all, end quote. Regarding Cody, a source stressed that he really doesn't have much of a relationship with the Bucks or Omega these days, which is something we've heard for a while now. Omega and the Bucks remain good friends, but it was said that Cody is very much on the outside looking in. All right, Paul, where do you want to start here? What's your take on all this?
That was a lot to take in. You know what I mean? Like, first of all, it does not necessarily surprise me that Tony Khan's response to everything, it seems like, is to assume more responsibility. Remember when Max Caster, like, the editors didn't catch the Max Caster rap? What was Tony Khan's response? I'll take that over too. You know, like, you literally read off like an entire list of things. So that's one of the thoughts that I have, is like he just assumes the responsibility for everything, it seems. The other part that came to mind was how, like, you know, the inconsequential some of the things that the people who are EVPs, that what they're in charge of, like merchandising, right, things of that nature. But I think that this is part of the natural progression and the growth of a company. It's going from a startup to something that is much larger and much more successful, and somebody who is footing most of the bill wants to take responsibility for those things to make sure that they are overseen.
Yeah, and you know, I actually think this. You know, I've got a lot of thoughts on it. None of them really negative, honestly. You know, I think this was a foregone conclusion. We would maybe kind of get to a point like this. You know, Tony Khan has been recruiting and putting together teams for a long time now. That's like his whole thing between football and soccer, right?
Right.
I think Tony did a great job scouting the absolute top non-WWE talent with the most rabid fan base, convince them to hook their wagon to his horses, right? Or be the horses to his wagon, whatever way you want to do the metaphor, right? And has used their momentum to make it his momentum, right? And now, right, he's transferred what they had onto himself. And now I don't want to say that they're less valuable, but Tony has become easily the most valuable and important part of that unit. No doubt about it. Right?
Yes.
Yeah. So,
I mean, you have to understand that when they started this company, people were scoffing at him. You know what I mean? They were laughing at him as like this ultra fan who was footing the bill, like this Mark, who is the money mark of the group. They got him convinced to foot the bill for their dream.
Right.
And now it's turned around quite differently. And over the process of the last couple of years, he has distinctly said that he doesn't want to be an on-camera personality, but it's very clear that he wants to become an off-camera personality. He's built his
both. He's both. And I hate to cut you off. But it's been happening for a few months now, where the big overarching storyline of AEW is Tony Khan versus WWE. Yes. Right? I mean, Tony is as integral a part of the storytelling in AEW as anything else. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
No, I mean, but he said that he didn't want to become that on-camera character, but he distinctly has become that character off-camera. So, people are watching what he's doing. It's like, I would say it's like the rise of any of these people that we've seen who, most of whom, like Vince Russo, or people who started out in an office setting and then became the talk of the industry in some capacity. And I think that Tony Khan is falling into that sort of category now.
Yeah, and I look at Tony very differently than a lot of other people that have come and gone in similar positions. I mean, there were old school promoters, right? Like, you could make your case for Crockett or Lawler, or whoever, that knew how to book and do business on a small regional level, right? Mm-hmm. But on an international level, the only person you could compare Tony to is Vince McMahon, right? Bischoff. Yes. Bischoff had some creative ideas. Obviously, I don't think in the long run Eric really was able to, keep that mojo going creatively. But the business acumen with Eric was never quite where it is with Tony, right? And Tony is bolstered by a whole universe of great lawyers and accountants and everything, things that I don't think that Eric really was surrounded by. So I think Tony.
Well, the reason that you can't compare him to anybody except Vince McMahon at this point is because it's actually his money. Like, Eric Bischoff could make poor decisions one after another, and just sort of like squander this because it was somebody else's money. And that was always like the punchline of every joke. Like, oh, throwing around somebody else's money, spending somebody else's money. This is actually Tony Khan's money.
Yeah, and I saw some here, Daniel Price, very flippantly. It's not really a startup when you have daddy's PIN number, though, is it? Yeah, I mean, did he come into a world of wealth? Absolutely, right? But the bottom line does seem to be, as Dave Meltzer has pointed out here, and I think WrestleNomics will back it up, Tony had about $25 million, which is nothing to scoff at, and has turned it into a company worth more than 8 times. That's worth $40 million now, whatever. It's 4 times 16 times he's doubled the money that he put into this thing.
So to the question about, is it really a startup, because you have that, but the nature and reality of startups is somebody who came to San Francisco at the beginning of like this huge internet boom. That was exactly what it was like being in a startup. Startups always went and got somebody else's money. They got venture capital, had tons of money, and then many times, like, it was based around a great idea that somebody was willing to invest in, but most of the time it was squandered and gone within, like, trust me, I went through that cycle 2 times with 2 startups before I got with a startup that did not do that. But, it really is that. It's because of this around the idea of selling a group of people on this idea you have that other people think is impossible. And starting from the ground up, meaning there's no structure. You have to put everything in place yourself. And we've seen them do that. They're doing that right now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and we see Dave in here, or Dave's, by the way. Vince McMahon also inherited his company, right?
Yes, that is actually correct.
We also have Dave Langer. Vince also had daddy's money and had WWF given to him. But it's still family money, right? Like, it's their money, right? Bischoff was not a Turner. He was not Ted Turner's child.
Right.
Yeah. Right. So I agree with you. I think it is very different. The only person you can kind of compare Tony to right now is a Vince McMahon. And when you look at Vince's model, it is not art by committee, right? Which is a great book you should read if you would like. Vince is the end all be all for pretty much all aspects of the company. He has financial advisors in Nick Khan. He has creative advisors in Bruce Pritchard. There are people in his orbit that influence his decisions greatly. But at the end of the day, he's the guy that makes the decisions. And that has been a winning model for WWE, even if you want to disagree with their creative at points. I think having the end all be all go through Tony Khan is good, especially when you have the four guys giving you advice being active wrestlers, right? Like,
yeah,
this needed to happen, Paul. Like, I think it had gotten to a point where people were starting to kind of notice, if they're getting booked, it's going through Tony and whatever they have input, that's fine. But if you're booking yourself, like the Cody run there, as you've pointed out for a while,
I think this, for example, for people who think that I hate Cody, I think that something of this nature where there's a checks and balances system to keep somebody from having just a fairly ego-driven type of run where it's like for the greater good of something as opposed to somebody like imagining themselves as the greater good, I think it would change a lot of my perception. And I think it's going to change a lot of other people's perception of Cody Rhodes.
Yeah, I just think this is a good move in general. No offense to these guys, but your role right now is to be wrestlers and give what you can to help build the company and stuff. But there needs to be somebody that is not involved on screen, and I hope Tony does pull back a little bit on that because he's been very, very visible for a little while now, and really, doubles down as the leader of this company. I've also heard that Tony likes to go out and enjoy himself with the boys and stuff afterwards, after events and party and stuff like that. Having talked to Waltman about it on Pro Wrestling for Life, that's something Vince used to do, but like has pulled over time, like kind of pulled back on, pretty early too, early in the 90s and stuff, realized it was better for him and the company to not have that direct relationship with the locker room. And I think we may be seeing it kind of even further divide here. I could see Tony, withdrawing more and more from kind of that, old school kind of party mentality with the boys and stuff. So,
well, you want to be able to distinguish and just, separate business and and personal. So that always gets blurred if you have that kind of relationship where you're out hanging out with them and then the next day you have to be like, I can't, I can't give you what you want. It becomes more challenging.
Yeah, and I don't think that any of these guys, all four of these guys, could be going anywhere anytime soon. But you do want, I wonder, the company is just now in its third year, or going into its third year. It launched in January 2019, so not even 2 years old. This company really is quite yet. A lot of these guys signed 3-year contracts, right? We're about a year away from seeing who really enjoyed their time or wants to maybe try something else. And I'm really interested to see here what happens when a bunch of these notable contracts come up in a year or so.
And they're already teasing that like on camera,
right?
You know what I mean? Like that's already been like a focal point of a storyline on camera just last night.
Yeah, well, let's get to it. AEW Dynamite was last night. Great segue there. Paul's alluding to an MJF promo. So during this promo, he's talking about being one of the 4 pillars of AEW. He said the following. He said, Tony Khan, we're friends and I love you, buddy. In fact, out of all the Khans of professional wrestling, you're easily in my top 2. However, if you don't start giving me opportunities I deserve, I have other friends from back in the day. I have an old friend from my MLW days, and his name is Bruce Pritchard, and I got Brucey on speed dial. That's what you're referencing, I'm sure, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I don't know how serious MJF is about actually leaving. I feel like he's a made man in AEW. I don't know that he would leave anytime soon.
Well, I don't think that there was any, truth to the possibility that necessarily he was leaving. I think that once again, they are starting to, like, this is number one, alluding to what people know as reality, is that some of these contracts are going to be coming up to, very, very soon. It's also playing to the reality that we know that these are, in fact, the major people that they planned to build AEW around. And other people, I mean, MJF is not entirely wrong with this kind of promo, like we saw, we've seen Jungle Boy get multiple title opportunities over his time there. Darby did have a title. Sammy Guevara ultimately in that same episode wins the title.
Yeah.
And where's MJF's opportunity at anything? He's been embroiled in these feuds that have built him up, I think, in credibility, but in terms of fighting for championships, we haven't seen that.
Yeah, and you know what? I think that, this was just good timing here, right? I mean, MJF has been presented at the same level as like a Jericho or, Christian, whoever, these bigger names, it's time for him to take that momentum and move it into something meaningful. And I think that maybe this is an acknowledgement of exactly what you're describing right now. We did see, like you say, Sammy Guevara stepped up last night, beat Miro for the AEW TNT Championship. Huge reaction from the fans. First of all, what did you think of the title change? Are you okay with Sammy taking the TNT Championship?
I mean, I was surprised by it. To a large part, I was and wasn't. I think that they had been building to that moment for a while, but I was surprised to see it. I'm not sure who I would have put on the belt on if not Sammy. And Sammy is definitely somebody who is in that category. I think that I look at the people that MJF mentioned, and Jungle Boy and Sammy Guevara, in my mind, are like a step below MJF and Darby Allin.
I agree with that.
Say that again?
I agree with that. Yeah. And it looked like Darby Allin and MJF are, on a collision course after last night.
Yes. Right. And, to me, this is something that will help build Sammy up. Miro was not, I would say he's fairly protected in that loss. When you say like taking the bump to the steel turnbuckle, it's like, he has something to sort of attribute that to, I guess.
Well, and I think I'm not worried about Miro, right? And, you talk about a good use of the title here. This guy came in, needed a big win, gave him the title, gave him a new nickname, gave him a new attitude, really defined himself as a champion. And on the other side of this thing, man, he doesn't need a belt right now. Sammy's going to get elevated by this TNT title. Miro can just have somebody spill coffee on his shirt backstage right now, and I'll watch whoever spilled coffee on him feud with Miro for 6 weeks. Like, he's just in that kind of zone right now where I feel like he's going to be able to make anything work with anybody just with his intensity and persona. With Sammy Guevara here, you're right. He's not quite at that MJF Darby level right now. Could really use something. This title, I hope, is a great chance for him to establish. He got really kind of lost the shuffle with Inner Circle. We didn't see him on TV for a long time. There was the whole roads to the top, roads to redemption in the wake of the Sasha Banks comments. He's a young guy. I really hope he could do this, keep his nose clean, and redefine himself with this title. I thought it was a great move. And as I just said, roads to the top, it was revealed during one of the commercial breaks on Roads to the Top that Sammy's first title defense is going to be next Wednesday on Dynamite against Bobby Fish, and PW Insider saying Fish's appearance is not expected to be a one-time deal for AEW. Any thoughts on that?
I thought it was pretty exciting that we're going to see one half of the Undisputed Era on AEW television. So I mean, I would much rather honestly see Fish and Adam Cole together than the Super Click, but like that group feels fairly top heavy to me. But then again, like, do I really want another faction in AEW where everybody is in a 400-person faction?
And Bobby Fish, I'd love to talk to Bobby. I've heard a lot of things about Bobby. I don't know what is true and is not true about him personally, but I do really like Bobby as a performer, as a wrestler. I mean, you got that America's Top team rolling around right now. If you're looking to slot him with a faction, I think, he fits like a glove in there. I could see him, like you just mentioned, the Undisputed Era stuff, right? You got Adam Cole, the Super Elite or Super Click or whatever you would call him. Bobby Fish comes up to say hi to Adam in the back, and he's like, hey, dude, right? Thinks that they're right on the same page, and Adam kind of brushes him off. You immediately have a program there between Bobby and Adam, and it's not very difficult to tell, And speaking of Adam, while we're talking about Sammy and that Miro main event, I saw Sean tweeted this out last night after the show. So he obviously watched Dynamite, which says a lot that you got Sean Waltman to watch 2 hours of wrestling. That opener with Jungle Boy and Adam Cole was a banger. The Miro Sammy match at the end was a banger. I don't know how you book into a show with better wrestling than what we saw on Dynamite last night.
It was really quite good. The opening match between Adam Cole and Jungle Boy was fantastic. And, like the interesting element of this is that Adam Cole comes in and we already consider him like, obvious for obvious reasons, because he jumped over, from the competitor, from the top of the competitor's card, nonetheless. And fantastic work. He's really going to do a lot to help establish Jungle Boy. Jungle Boy looked fantastic in that match as well. So kudos to both of them.
Yeah, agreed. I thought it was just a good night of action on AEW last night. The women kind of got wedged in there, but I feel like for the time they were given, man, Penelope Ford has really improved a lot. Like I just thought that women's tag match over-delivered on kind of the expectations, and especially that's like right at not quite the 8 o'clock hour. I think it was like right after the 8 o'clock hour or something like that.
I really enjoyed the women's tag team match. I think that Ty and Anna Jay looked phenomenal together. They had the matching gear, as did Bunny and Penelope Ford. They both looked great. They both looked like polished tag teams. As somebody who loves that kind of matchy tag team vibe, and of course a huge fan of tag team wrestling to begin with. Both of them impressed me. It was better than we deserved for that match.
Yeah, I really didn't have a whole lot of problems about wrestling. I thought last night's episode flew by. We also had the promo that aired with Leo Rush announcing he signed with AEW. He looks like he's going to be portraying himself as a big business that's going to be bringing his talents to the company. Thought this looked great. And man, I know, there's going to be people that are like, oh, Leo Rush is retired 2 or 3 times. Why should I carry his back? Conor McGregor's done the same thing. Terry Funk's retired a half dozen times. I don't really have any issues with that. I'm just happy to see Leo back wrestling. I hope he's happy. There's a ton of great opponents for him in AEW, no doubt about it.
Yeah, I mean, in regards to that, I did tweet out last night saying that retirement didn't last very long, but at the same time, I think that there's going to be a fantastic series of matches sitting ahead for him, and so let's just enjoy it.
Yeah, no kidding. I mean, we saw what Sammy and Miro could do last night. I'd love to see Leo Rush in a fast-paced match with Sammy. I'd love to see him try to take on a guy like Miro. It just goes on and on. Good get by Tony Khan there. I know he was very aggressive when it came to courting Leo. All right, lastly here, coming out of Dynamite, the promo that everybody's talking about. And no, it's not the MJF one. It is AA Arn Anderson. Cut a promo to Cody Rhodes last night. And during the promo, he said the following. He said, there's 2 big differences between you and I, Cody. If you pull up to a red light and a man jerks your door open and tries to take your car, you'd say, okay, take it. Just don't hurt me. You know what I'd do? I'd pull out the Glock, put it on his forehead, spill his brains all over the concrete. I'm Arn Anderson, and I'd be damned if I'm going to coach a loser. Come on with me, Lee. At least you listen to me. Holy shit, dude. What the hell was that? Wow.
I think that you left out a single line in that, which is, I'm Arn Anderson and everything that means.
Okay.
And, what does that mean, you murderous old bastard? What does all that mean? But, I think that ultimately this is going to lead to, Cody discovering his inner killer and being able to overcome Malachi Black, because the whole point of this, remember, was Arn basically telling him, just give it up. Malachi has destroyed you. He's destroyed you twice. And so I think that this is being used as motivation to make, Cody get it back together, snap him to reality, be that Cody Rhodes that nobody wants you to be.
I mean, okay. Sure. I mean, do you have to threaten this kind of very aggressive? I mean, like, I don't really see that many kids, at AEW shows. Obviously, there's a few that get invited to the scrums. I don't know if I want an AJ Awesome watching Arn Anderson graphically describe murder to Cody Rhodes like that. I mean, I don't want to be,
What about -1?
Negative
-1. This is how you do it.
Yeah, -1.
Block and spill their brains.
Totally forgotten that there was a child dealing with the traumatic loss of his father sitting backstage. Wow.
Backstage, he was on camera half the time.
I just, and it's weird to me that it's the old timers that are using this kind of language, right? Goldberg said he wanted to murder Bobby Lashley in the sands of Saudi Arabia on Monday night. Like, what is in the air right now where, like, the stakes have been raised? Like, I was always taught to not go there when I was cutting promo. Like, you didn't need to threaten, like, actual murder to get your point across. That's just what I was taught with cutting promos. Could be wrong now, I guess, since Arn Anderson feels to be fine with it,
Well, I don't know. I thought that was it was a little, it happened. Like, I don't know. It was like it was a little I mean, it was stunning. It was startling. I was like, what?
Yeah.
But I was caught up more in the idea of, I'm hoping that, are we going to start to see a change of character for Cody? Is it going to be something a little different? Is it going to be something more aggressive in a way that makes him kind of align? It was very clear, like last night, that audience was openly booing him. Like, they openly booing him. And at some point in time, I think not addressing that makes him look like an idiot. Like, you know what I mean? Like, where you're coming out and like, hi, everybody. Thanks for loving me. And they're like, boo, you suck. And he's like, oh, thanks. I mean, it makes you look like an idiot. So something's got to give here. And again, this is not me hating on Cody Rhodes. I do not dislike him. I like the American Nightmare Cody Rhodes because he plays to what the audience is expecting from him. The current Cody, that babyface thing, it's run its course, and it's already crossed over into that audience hating John Cena, but we still get John Cena shoved down our throat.
I think they know. I mean, and you did a great job explaining last week, why Cody's been working as a heel while also being a babyface. I believe going back to Mid-South booking, if I'm not mistaken.
Mm-hmm.
They did another weird thing in his tag match where Lee Johnson tagged in at the last second to win the match, and they didn't push it hard, but I get the implication was that Cody was like perturbed that he didn't get to finish the match and that Lee was the one that jumped in. They didn't push it, but that seemed to be the implication. And again, like, I don't really know. I mean, I think they are teasing towards that heel turn. I think they may know where this is going. I think they know that this is going to lead to Cody being a bad guy here.
Well, I mean, let's hope, because, the other part of it is, I think that, there's a distinction, like, between having the audience boo a character that's intended to be booed and boo a character that you expect them to cheer. Like, one is like, MJF plays to those things and elicits that response. And Cody's eliciting a response right now based on stuff that 90% of the time is not intentional, I don't think. So it just means that your plan is backfiring on you.
Well, like we said at the top here, Arn told Cody he apparently needs to become more murderous. I imagine Cody walking into Arn's dressing room next week on Dynamite, gun in hand, blood on the shirt. I did it. I killed him. Malachi Black is dead, and all these people are running by in the background. Oh my God, there's been a shooting, right? What a turn. MCAS Pierre, Arn Anderson channeling 1986. I love it. Scott Ficca, Arn straight gangster. We have Daniel Price. Sorry for all you sensitive Sallies who hate true and honest things that don't jive with what you want to hear, consider it trolling. P.S. GTFOH with that sensitivity, little guys. I apologize. I was that maybe some people who have dealt with gun violence before, who have dealt with the loss of friends that are maybe, again, too young to be exposed to things like that maybe get put off by that kind of verbiage. It's just so strong. And again, like if you're just like trying to maybe get your significant other to watch pro wrestling with you, they're sitting on the couch, I don't know that this does a great job of bringing people to the party, Paul. You know,
I just thought it was odd because I don't think that either one of us were like,
wait,
like super sensitive or whatever.
Adam Albright saying, not sure gun violence is a subject to put in wrestling. Don't they? Isn't Fight for the Fallen like a charity they work with about gun violence? Isn't that what they do?
Well, I mean, to me, like the reason the promo was startling has limited, like, it's not because I'm sensitive about even gun violence or something like that. It just seemed really, really out of place in the context of the rest of their show. And then people were like, oh my, what is that about? You know, like even the announce team was like, okay.
I think we were all just at a loss there. And the thing I also thought about while watching this is like the whole Max Caster thing, where Tony's like, I always approve the promos before they happen on Dynamite. I guess I'm going to have to start doing that with Rampage as well. So, like, I would imagine Arn Anderson, or maybe he did it. Maybe he's like, I'm going to keep this one to myself and let it go off in the ring. But I would imagine that Tony had an idea that Arn was going to say this. I could be very, very wrong, but if that's true, whatever.
Yeah. It's Arn Anderson. It's not
right.
Max Caster, right?
All right. Well, Daniel Price is saying his comment was about people getting triggered over honest, constructive criticism in wrestling in general, not about the gun thing. Calm down. All right. So, again, I guess Daniel doesn't want to make any apologies for the gun line either, right? So, whatever it may be. And there's different things people are going to be upset about, Daniel. That doesn't make them bad people. Gun violence is a real thing. And, again, they work with a gun violence charity. All right, let's see. Anything else I want to bring up here? Nothing off the top of my head. Okay, moving on to WWE. Showbuzz Daily, they're saying Tuesday's live edition, or Showbuzz Daily saying Tuesday's live edition of NXT 2.0, 655,000 viewers on USA, down 12.19% from last week's 746,000 viewers. They did a 0.14 in the 18 to 49, down 30% from last week's 0.2. NXT ranked number 32 in the cable top 150, down from number 11. They were number 50 in overall cable viewership, down from 43. This was the lowest viewership of 2.0 so far, and the lowest key demo rating for a live USA Network episode since June 29th. So even with NXT 1.0. Key demo also tied with several other episodes to be the second lowest of the year. This week's NXT viewership was down 10.5% from the episode a year ago. The 18 to 49 demo down 26.3. And of course, a year ago, they were head to head with AEW Dynamite. I mean, for a product you're trying to reheat up, it doesn't seem to be sizzling. It seems to be more of a slow burn out right now, Paul.
This makes me really sad. The reason it makes me so sad is because I love professional wrestling and I would like to have as many options of professional wrestling on television as possible. I am concerned about this. Like, the downward trajectory does not bode well. And it makes me sad that this is something that we talk about on an ongoing basis, like the kind of the ratings and things like that versus the content of the shows. You know, like those are the things I would much rather talk about, the content of shows, whether it was good or bad, or whether we enjoyed it or didn't enjoy it, rather than the downward spiral, in this case, of a television rating. The reason that I would prefer to be able to do that is because I know that people in an office somewhere are looking at these numbers and beginning to wonder who is going to lose their job next, you know, and that's the reality of what's happening here. It
is bad, right? Like, I don't want to sugarcoat any of this right now. I mean, this is a product that's supposed to be on the rebound. It's supposed to be repackaged right now. Let's talk about the product, right? Does this downward trend, in your opinion, reflect a downward trend in the momentum and creativity that goes into NXT, Paul?
Well, I think that, you know, the way I look at this situation is the reason it spiked initially is because they promoted the hell out of it as this new thing. It was going to be brand new. We're going to see all these new things. And so a lot of people tune in, right? It's like, it's the beginning. People tune in because you promoted it and hyped it. If you don't catch their attention or capture their imagination, the number of people who come back on an ongoing basis starts to dwindle and the numbers drop. So the problem that we've seen here is that as opposed to doing something to reinvigorate characters that we've already known and slowly start to slot in characters that we do not know, is a lot of the characters that we already knew and loved were pulled, and they've given us 50 different brand new faces, names, and identities to replace, in a lot of cases, people that we knew and loved.
And liked, yes.
Yeah. And with people that we don't know, we don't have any affection or attachment to at this juncture. And quite frankly, many of whom have no character development to attach ourselves to. So, I mean, am I shocked? No, not at all. Like, the only thing that I was looking forward to this week really was Frankie Monet doing Raquel Gonzalez for the women's title. But I remind you, that was promised a month ago when it was still 1.0 or whatever it was.
Right. Yeah. And, and the women delivered. Like, again, it's not really the wrestling I have an issue with, because, I think there's a lot of good wrestling. It's
absolutely.
And, I see a fan here, MCAS, listener, time for NXT 3.0. All kidding aside, right? This was supposed to be a great new direction for the company right now. And I wonder if the decision to go to 2.0 didn't really does it send a direct signal to fans that we've given up, right? This didn't work. We're going to try our best. But if you know that the people producing the content have given up, right? I think it sends a pretty big signal there. Domino's Pizza tried it, right? Our pizza sucks. We're going to make good pizza now. Work for them, right? But the pizza got better. I'm not seeing a substantial change in my pizza right now over at NXT.
Well, there's a few things to note here. The problem never was that the product sucked. Mm-hmm. The product was outstanding. The problem was that people weren't watching it. So, what does it say to people who have been watching it all this time that we're now going to 2.0? What if the response is, I don't want 2.0. I want 1.0, and I would like you to promote it. I would like you to show it some respect. I would like you to validate the fact as a company, the fact that audiences universally have agreed that this product is the best of the three you produce, and you pay it no attention. And on your main roster, give it no respect. So, what I think that some of those people were like, I'm out. I personally don't think that this 2.0 looks better than the old one. I loved the vibe. I loved the feel. I loved everything about the previous product. So there's very little about this new piece that appeals to me. And I think that they would have been much smarter to just keep the continuity, everything exactly the way it was, and start introducing these characters over time. You can do it kind of fast, but there's a way to do it where it just feeds them into the continuity of what you've got existing. Or maybe, I don't know, crazy thought, air some vignettes who let us know who the hell they are before you're introducing them.
Well, Tony D'Angelo is getting that treatment right now. It's a piece
but that's one person out of the 50 people that debuted all on the premiere episode of 2.0, and I still don't know any of them.
All right, well, real quick, I want to throw this in, as I love my food metaphors. There's a great show, A Food That Saved America. I encourage you all to watch it. Rob Humphrey saying, Nick, you live in Chicago. If you eat Domino's, someone should smack you. I love Domino's sandwiches, and I have no apologies for that. But Dave Langer saying, New Coke tried it, scrapped it. The New Coke is a very interesting story when it comes to the history of food, because Pepsi was rising up. Coke decided that they were going to change up their 100+ year formula, put out new Coke, and people hated it, right? People were like, why would you change Coca-Cola? We love Coca-Cola. Just like you're passionately talking about that formula that you loved in NXT. Why would you change the formula of Coca-Cola? They made new Coke. They tried to make Coke sweeter like Pepsi. They rejected. So what did they wind up having to do? Create a new campaign that says, guess what? Coca-Cola Classic is going to be hitting the shelves. It's the Coke that you love. It's back. And that went on to become the hottest selling soda of all time. And it was interesting because the company was seeing some real financial losses because they made the decision to take away Classic Coke. But the moment they gave Classic Coke back to people were talking about how much they missed Classic Coke. They were buying it in droves because it had been taken away from them for a little bit and given back. And I'm not saying that's what's going to happen here, Paul, because it could be like Domino's Pizza, and they may just try to keep their new pizza. But if you say NXT 2.0, we get it, this didn't work, we're going to give you back the dark, gritty NXT, maybe it does better, because you took it away for a little bit, and then maybe you give it back. Just a thought. I don't know that it's going to go that way, but that's what the Coca-Cola conversation got me thinking when I saw that.
Well, to me, it's just a simple matter of they could have very simply integrated NXT. I mean, it's always been like since we had the brand split with SmackDown and Raw, for the majority of that time, we've had integrated pay-per-view events. Mm-hmm. Why couldn't they start to slot some of the NXT wrestlers into like the bigger matches into some of those? And they didn't have to be like integrated with the main roster. It could be, whatever, Joe versus Ciampa in the, for the NXT title or whatever the case may be, just as an example, where people who are watching the wider product see how well these people perform and become invested in that. And like, I think I might go check that out. That match, was amazing. I'm going to go look at this on Tuesday nights or Wednesday nights or whatever night of the week they are going to air them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Real quickly, I just want to say that to everybody. Well, first of all, I applaud who was it here that said Dennis Bridgewater. He's got a Coca-Cola right now, I think is what he said. I forgot. I picked up the wrong one. But a lot of people I see in the comment section saying I'm in the pocket of Big Domino's. Let me tell you something. I wish I was in the pocket of Big Domino's. Domino's, come over, put me in your pocket. All right. We got a couple things. We got about 10 minutes left here, Paul. We're going to breeze through a couple WWE items. We're going to listen to EC3, and then we're going to quickly touch on Roads to the Top at the end. The biggest piece of WWE news for the past 24 hours was a PW Insider report saying that Randy Orton was not present at the post-Extreme Rules edition of Raw. Word going around backstage is he's not cleared to perform. Now, no word on when he's going to be back, but it's going to be interesting to see if he's involved in the draft beginning this Friday on SmackDown, then wraps up next Monday on Raw. I believe it was the week before that Matt Riddle kind of alluded to the fact that he and Orton could be split up in the draft. No idea what that does for the tag titles. But if Randy is down and he's going to be gone for a little bit, I don't think he could have done anything better than teeing up Matt Riddle to be a great babyface for whatever heel he winds up being paired with here in the near future.
The interesting thing to note about this was that when I was watching Monday Night Raw, I almost forgot, like watching Riddle and AJ Styles, I almost forgot that I hate Matt Riddle.
It's getting to that point, right? Where it's like, there's some issues, right? Like he settled with Candy Cartwright, which is not exactly like, my favorite thing that we didn't ever find out the truth or justice in that particular issue. Look it up, Google it. But it's undeniable at this point that this guy, with where he's at is way over. And the idea of him getting drafted over to SmackDown in a Matt Riddle Roman Reigns confrontation would certainly put some butts in the seats right now, Paul. I can't deny it.
I mean, I still cannot cope with anything that he says backstage, any of that shenanigans like that. Anytime he opens his mouth, I can't. But when he was in the ring against AJ Styles, it was a very, very strong, very solid, very exciting match.
Yeah. And, just to kind of put a button here on Randy, man, again, Matt Riddle is not Matt Riddle right now, or Riddle, whatever. Matt Riddle is not Matt Riddle right now without Randy Orton. Randy Orton took this guy, elevated him. If he has to go away, if Matt's going to get drafted, they have to take the tag titles off him, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Like what Randy Orton just did for WWE and Riddle was 100% the right thing to do. Couple of sinus surgery updates here. PW Insider saying that the reason Alexa Bliss, like we reported, is going to be away from several months off TV. She underwent sinus surgery. She's expected to be out a few months. That's why she was written off TV at Extreme Rules. And there was a lot of speculation that she on the other side could come back as her former self, which I think we talked about on Tuesday, how great that would be.
Yeah, I mean, I don't necessarily want her, the goddess character or whatever, that is overdone. There's a million of those. Like, look how poorly it's done for a Carmella to have that kind of an image. So I think that, whatever Alexa Bliss decides to come back as, or whatever they choose for her, she has proven her ability to make anything work. So good on Alexa Bliss.
Yeah, and by the way, Jake McDonald, to just kind of take a step back for a second, Riddle and Roman, that would offer a rare opportunity for WWE to have something that draws without requiring a 50-year-old part-timer. And I agree with that. I think there'd be people who come in for that one. All right, lastly here, Celtic Warrior, and then we're going to get to EC3, and then we will talk roads to the top. Celtic Warrior took to Twitter, posted a pre-surgery photo yesterday morning, posted a follow-up photo indicating his operation was a success. He's dealt with a busted nose and taken a stiff shot from Humberto Carrillo on May 31st. Underwent surgery a few days later, re-aggravated the injury during a match with Jeff Hardy in September. He last wrestled on this week's Raw, losing a no DQ match to Damian Priest, which was very brutal. And PW Insider saying Sheamus is expected to be out for a few weeks, likely to miss the draft. No word on how WWE is going to handle it. But, man, this guy is tough as nails. And it's getting to the point when you look back on this period of time in professional wrestling, I think Sheamus is going to be looked back on really fondly. I mean, his ability to kind of connect as a hard-hitting big man, the tag team with Cesaro, maybe an underappreciated wrestler, I think, for our time in a lot of ways is Sheamus.
I agree with that. I think that, I will have to admit that I started doubting this character early on, the development with the coat and the whatever. But I've taken really fondly to the broken nose Sheamus, and the fact that he's actually out there, y'all, with a massively broken nose doing this shit. And, he's legitimately injured to the point that he's had multiple surgeries on that nose. And he is still delivering. That match with him and Damian Priest was really, really good. I enjoyed it quite a lot. And knowing that knowing that Sheamus is doing this, actually injured, makes a big deal. And a broken nose is nothing fun, not at all.
All right. Well, Paul, I want to thank you for talking the news of the day up top with me today. Thank you to everybody who tuned in and jumped into the comment section. Thank you to EC3. Free the Narrative 2 takes place this Saturday night on Fight.tv. So go check that out. And with that, we'll go to the mailbag. At Wink Daily is the account to follow. 1,294 followers. We are on the precipice of 1,300 followers. So if you're not following us yet, go follow us. 1,313 spooky number. Of course, we're going for the super. We're going for the super spooky number of 1,666 followers by Halloween. We could do it, everybody, but you just got to go follow.
Y'all, Nick wants to invoke Satan to co-host with him. There's something severely wrong with this gentleman.
There is. Yeah, there really is. But anyway, hey, you know what? Let's see if we can do it. I'll open up a portal of hell right over my shoulder. We'll let the demons come play. I just need 1,666 followers. And as Nicholas...
I can't wait for us to get to 1313, which is like 1313 Mockingbird Lane, which is the address of the Munsters.
Wow. That is true. I had forgotten that. And I believe they're making a Munsters movie right now, which is supposed to be really good. So anyway, yeah, Rob Zombie's directing it. Nicholas, my plant friend, saying support the Wrestling Inc. Daily. Nick is our hero. Well, thank you, Nicholas. Today's poll question, what'd you think of Roads to the Top? It aired last night after Dynamite twice. Did you love it, like it, did not like it, or hate it? We had about 150 votes here in the past hour. 43.4% liked it, 25.7% hated it, 19.1% loved it, and 11.8% did not like it. Now, you haven't watched it yet. I don't know if you want to give any thoughts on Roads to the Top.
Yeah, I can't. I won't speak on something I haven't seen in terms of its quality.
Sure.
Or any of those things. And I just want to clarify once again, I'm not I don't remember ever seeing a full episode of Total Divas or like Total Bellas or any of that stuff. I'm not a reality TV type of person. So no matter what, it does not appeal to me. The thought of it, no matter who might be starring on it, doesn't appeal to me.
I do watch those shows. I love Total Divas and Total Bellas. And I was watching to compare it to those. I thought it was okay. Like, you kind of have some of the contrived, tropes, the pregnant woman or mom, the getting ready for the baby stuff. It feels very stilted to me. I don't want to say that it was like hostage style, like camera cuts when people are doing interviews, but nobody's going to say anything bad about Cody, especially knowing what we know now back to the top of the show, where it was like, at this time, Cody was the only one that really had Tony's ear. It is what it is, right? It's a look at how AEW runs through Cody and Brandy's eyes. That is what it is. And you're either going to like it or you're not going to like it. It looks like it's about a 50-50 split, a little over. More people liked it. I didn't hate it, but I definitely thought it was a very skewed vision or version of the day-to-day of AEW.
I think that one of the reasons, like without watching it, one of the reasons that I will say that turned me off to this concept from the go is because I don't get the impression that this is something that somebody else was like, you know what, these two are really compelling, these two are really popular, people would love to see their interactions. This felt more like Cody and Brandy were like, we're so amazing, people want to see us.
It's Rhodes propaganda. It is Rhodes propaganda.
Yes. And that is the part that, like, they also don't have that like kind of fun interactivity that
we have to wrap, Paul. We have to wrap, Paul. We gotta go.
Yeah, I don't think it's gonna be a Ms. and Mrs.
Okay,
go
wonderful.
on.
Awesome, thank you. And I also don't like that the Brandy's storyline is she's preparing to come take the AEW Women's Championship. I hope that's not a promise. Comes across like a threat. Okay, I will be back tomorrow. I'll be joined by Christy Olson. I will also have on the show Scott Fishman's conversation with new ROH Women's Champion Roxy. So come on back for all that. SupportWrestlingInc.com or on all your socials. The Wrestling Podcast is at night after the big shows, just like the Daily is here. Paul, anything you want to put over before we wrap up the show today?
Yeah, head over and follow me on Twitch at follow twitch.tv/Pollo Del Mar, and that's it.
Okay, wonderful. Daniel Price, thank you, Paul. Rob Humphrey, no one cuts off Paul Nick. But hey, we got to go. My conversation with EC3 is debuting right now on the Wrestling Inc. YouTube page. Jump out of this. Go watch that. I'll talk to you tomorrow. And remember, if you winked, you didn't miss it. Goodbye, everybody.